Hello there, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Your Concrete Success podcast. And today we're going to be hearing from Hunter Davidson, who sold over $1.3 million worth of epoxy flooring concrete coatings and growing his company rapidly over the last 2.5 years, now helping other concrete coating companies grow their companies through smart automation, sales, and marketing. So here we go. Stay tuned here for another episode of Your Concrete Success Podcast. Welcome to Your Concrete Success Podcast, a show created to inspire decorative concrete contractors to build a thriving decorative concrete business. I'm your host, Danny Barrera, the founder of Concrete Marketing Group, a digital agency specialized for concrete contractors, and also the author of the Digital Concrete Contractor Marketing Plan, how to turn your online marketing efforts into a lead generation machine. On each episode, I'll be sharing proven tips, strategies, and processes from leading experts in the industry on how they found success in their concrete business. And we're back here. We have Mr. Hunter Davidson. What a pleasure to have you here in this podcast. Welcome aboard, Hunter. How's your day going?
It's been going great. Thanks a ton for having me on. I'm excited to chat about what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hunter is, he's really making some things happen in the concrete coatings, epoxy flooring on the residential side industry. A young gun. How old are you, Hunter?
25.
25 years old. And you started your coatings company when?
We're coming up on almost 3 years. So almost 3.
So you were about 22, 21, 22 when you started?
22. I was right about 22 when I started. Yep.
Wow, that's an interesting story. I'd love to hear a little bit more. If you don't mind, take us back where you start. Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you started. How do you get started in the business?
Yeah, for sure. And I think how we got started is really important because it kind of helps give a little bit of our background with what we're doing with Turnkey. But so I live in Utah, so that's our market. We cover all of Utah, and kind of the way I got into it was I started by doing some installs and sales for a friend of mine who's in the coatings industry. I was with him for about a year. I probably did more of the installs during that period of time than sales. But I had a lot of interest in the sales at that point. I really wanted to start learning it. Anyways, towards the end of my journey with that guy, I got out of it and realized that I wanted to keep doing it. I was like, I know how to install this. I really want to figure out, how to build a business out of it. And so when I left that other company, though, I think I had like $400 or $500 to my name. I really didn't have much money at all. I was living at college housing.
Wow.
And so I started it with a good friend of mine. And he didn't have any money either. And so kind of what we did to start the sales journey was we knocked doors and pushed referrals. So that's how we got our first jobs. And actually, how we booked out our first, I think 2 months was purely door knocking and referrals. And it went rather quickly. I joke because we definitely got lucky because our first job, it was an $11,000 job. So is a bigger job, at least on the residential side.
Awesome.
And with it being just us two, we made enough money off it to, I think we bought like all of our smaller equipment, so like our hand grinders, our vacs, like just all the miscellaneous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then for any bigger jobs, we'd rent equipment. And so that's how my sales started, was just out of pure hunger. Because we didn't have any money. So I was like, well, we got to sell jobs if I want to make any money. And so that hunger is really what kicked it off, because there's a lot of learning mistakes we made those first year. But so from there, we got that bigger job. We booked out about a month. At that time, we booked out about a month's worth of jobs. Mm-hmm. And like companies, we collected deposits. And one of the very first things we did was actually hire a marketing agency, which is now called Service Legend. So, which that was a big risk for us, because at that time when we hired them, we pretty much spent all of our money on their onboarding and management fee and ad spend. Wow. So all the money we just made, we turned around, pumped it right back into it, which was scary because, again, it was all the money we made. We were nervous we wouldn't get results. But we quickly realized that between sales and marketing, that was the best thing we could have ever done. Because as soon as we started hiring them to do marketing, we just blew up from there.
Yeah. And to make a point in there, something that comes up is always like you have two components, the sales and the marketing. One works with the other. I like to hear, because the question we get a lot is like, okay, how much money should you be spending to advertising? You said you got the 11,000 job, you got the deposit for that, and you pretty much started pushing everything to advertising. How much you put into advertising, into the actual ad spend?
I'm trying to remember. So we had our management fee with them, which we were one of his first clients. So me and Ryan actually go way back now, but yeah. I think line or something. And so I think the management fee was $2,000. I think, I'm trying to remember. And then at the time, especially when we're starting out, I think we did $50 in Facebook, $50 in Google. So we didn't come out the gate with a ton.
Okay.
Especially because we couldn't. We just didn't have the money to do it. After we booked out the second month between door knocking and Facebook leads, we started upping our ad spend up to about 100, 150 a month. Wow. And that's when we started really getting good leads. And so our first year, I think we did about 550,000. The thing I always like to make, though, is we pretty much made no money off that because we didn't understand the finances too well. And so we probably weren't charging enough, spending too much on certain things. And so year one was a lot of learning for us because we really weren't that profitable. It was like, okay, we can drive revenue, but now we need to look at the profitability side. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting because at the end of year one, we got into Utah winter. And this is a disagreement me and my partner used to have. But that first winter, when we started seeing things slow down a little bit, we got really nervous and we actually started to claw back our ad spend, which was probably the worst thing we could have done. You know, we were scared. We're like, oh, we don't want to waste money on ads. And we had a really bad one. We had a really bad 3 or 4 months to kick off the year because we weren't advertising. And that actually almost shut us down. We were really close. We lost a lot of money. We weren't making any money. And so the other sales thing I learned that winter was like, okay, next winter, we are absolutely not doing that. And so we went into winter of year 2. And I actually started this. By this point, during the summer, we were spending about $200 a day on Facebook and $100 a day on Google. Okay. As the winter months started, we upped each of those by $100 a day. And we actually had our busiest months to date last winter than we even had the previous summer. And so that was a big lesson that we learned in sales and marketing was like, you know, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Right. And we also learned that marketing in the winter was great because everybody else stopped running ads like we did the last year. So our cost per lead actually slightly went down, which was really interesting. So winter was great for us. We learned a lot of good lessons from the last winter on how to keep us afloat. And then this year, our year to date, I think, like you said, we'll be right around 1.3, 1.4 million. Much more profitable. Things are looking great this year. So
beautiful. So first year, was it how many crews do you have first year?
2 crews.
2 crews. And now where are you at in crews?
4 crews.
4 crews. So you've doubled. Now profitability is looking much better now.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about now the sales component, because I'm interested in that aspect. You know, you realize, hey, we need leads, but at the same token, there's so much responsibility that happens in the lead handling to booking. Let's talk a little bit about the lead handling process. You know, what was your experience in handling leads? Did you do that all yourself? Did you and your partner, you know, bounce back and forth between lead handling and then your sales process? You know, what do you think was the shift that helped you become lethal at selling floors?
Yeah. And so this is where a big change, and this is where I saw the need in the market to offer the sales training that we do and the sales coaching. Is that first year is a lot of shoot from the hip. It was a lot of like, okay, here's the quote. Like, you know, let me know if you want to do it. I'll talk to you in a week. Mm-hmm. And same with the leads. So the first 6-7 months, I think we scheduled the leads. And then after that, we hired somebody in-house to start scheduling all of our leads. So the thing we learned pretty quickly as I started, I think after about 8 months is really when I sat down. I was like, okay, we're going to focus really hard on our sales systems. And your sales systems start, in my opinion, where marketing ends and sales starts is right. You know, as soon as you get that lead, mm-hmm. everything you need to be doing should be building up and getting that client ready to be sold. And so we tinkered around a lot with our CRM. We're like, okay, what do we want them seeing before we get there? What do we want them hearing from us before we get there? And so part of what we do at Turnkey is it's a full CRM build out. And so we have some pretty proven techniques where as soon as you get a lead, we kind of take them through this journey that by the time you get to the quote, we're trying to build them up a little bit. We're trying to build the value so they know. We want them to think it's going to be a higher ticket item because it is. So we have some ways we build value there, but then we also try to build rapport with the company. And so, that say 1 day to 5 days between scheduling quotes is really important. And so we did a lot of trial and error over the last. What did clients like? What did they not like? What worked and what didn't? And we started to figure out, okay, if they see these certain things and they hear this from us, then it seems to make them understand where the price tag is going to come in by the time the rep gets there. And it's also going to make them trust the company a little bit before we get there. And so that part it took a lot of time. Like I said, it probably took almost a year to year and a half of trial and error, trying out different automations, trying out different, is it worth it to send our Instagram or do we send the Google reviews? When do we send those? Like what type of things do we want them seeing? So we really got that figured out. And then the other part was the full sales process. It's like we talked about when we first started, there's a lot of send the quote and pray, right? Like, I hope they text me back saying they want to do it, like please, I hope it comes through. And that's a really miserable way to live a sales life. There's a lot of talk in the industry, sales is a numbers game, sales is this. And I think once you start to figure out your systems you have dialed, you can get a lot more consistency, which takes away a lot of that mental edge from sales. So sales is a mental game if you're playing it that route.
Right.
And so the sales systems we developed, so once we go from the lead scheduled, they go through our automations, help build them up. We developed this in-home kind of close where we kind of take them through. It's about each of our quotes typically lasts 20 to 30 minutes. And we found this process that worked really well. And again, that was another one. It took lots of practice. It took lots of losing a lot of quotes, lots of trial and error till we found something where we started to realize the results were extremely consistent. And so we have, in-home sales materials that we leave with the client. One of the big things I'm a huge believer in is I give the clients. So the process that we follow for the in-home is once we arrive to the home, I kind of walk them through the timeline of what we're going to do before we even go to the garage. So I'm like, we're going to spend about 5 minutes in the garage measuring everything out. And if it's all right, it's going to take me about 8 minutes to build out your quote. I'm going to leave you with these samples in this folder. Feel free to look through it. I'm going to head back to my truck, build out a quote. And when I come back, can we sit down and go, do you have somewhere where we can sit down? I'm like, oh yeah, we can sit at the dining table. So we kind of follow this process, but then within that, we have all the sales material that we've built out, and resources that allows the rep to not follow something that's extremely rote, but at least follow a flow to help them get to that close. And with that, we've developed some really consistent results. And so that's what we.
I think we lost him. Yeah.
So that's what we've done with Turnkey is we've taken all of that. We've realized what works really well in the coating industry, and we implement it, but then it's actually a longer course. We spend between 2 to 3 months with our clients.
Wow.
We have 1v1s with the owners and 1v1s with the sales reps each week. And during that week, we get a report from them on how they did last week. We talk about it, we evaluate it. Then we set goals, we set targets where they need to be at the next week. So it's a very, it's not like a one and dump where we come hit you with a bunch of knowledge and we're gone.
Yes.
By the time we're done with our program, it's really almost like a college environment where we're trying to teach you and guide you. So by the time you're done, you really don't need us anymore.
I love it. So it's this like a 6 month, half a year commitment, 3 month?
It's typically a 2 to 3 month commitment. Kind of depends.
2 to 3 months.
And the reason why that 1v1 with the owner is important, but then also the team, is because we want the team to be getting it from us. But we really want to make sure the owner's on board with everything we do here at Turnkey. And we really want to make sure they understand it, because the owner or whoever does the sales management, once we're done with that 2 to 3 months, we want them to be able to carry on everything we were doing and move on. And so the thing with what we do is we really want you, by the time we're done, you shouldn't really need us anymore.
Beautiful.
And so, yeah, it's quite a bit of 1v1. It's quite a bit. Like I said, typically month one is a lot of the building. So we do all the sales material building. We do the CRM building. We get everything ready. And then typically month 2 and 3 is the implementation. So that's when we do the 1v1s with the owners, the 1v1s with the sales team. And we do all that sales tracking and reporting.
I love it. I love it. So let's go back a little bit into what your clients at Turnkey Coatings can expect. What kind of KPIs are you encouraging them to build for their teams? What have you been able to accomplish that say, okay, for social media leads or leads in total that are coming in, what should be the booking ratio to estimates, and from booking estimates, how many presentations to closing? What are some of the KPIs that you help them dial in there?
Exactly. So the big ones we're measuring are, we have our booking ratio, we have a close ratio, and then we also have we call it a cost per square foot. I'm a believer that, I think where a lot of companies make a mistake, and we made a big mistake in this the first year, is in the coating industry, we get really hung up on, $6 or $7 a square foot. That's the magic number, right? Or $5. Like, we get really caught up in the price per square foot. So one of the things we push is like, because for example, $7 a square foot on 1,000 square foot project, your profit margin is a lot better than $7 a square foot on 300 square feet, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we coach is, is we want to look at what your overhead looks like. We're kind of a profitability center, so we want to, because we realized quickly at Sparks, every time we did a 2-car garage at $5 a square foot, we were pretty much exactly break even with our overhead and with everything else. We might make a little bit money there, but as soon as you had one callback or anything else, you lost it. And we quickly realized, like, okay, a 200 square foot garage at $5 a square foot is, say it's 500 square feet is $2,500. If you're going to close the client at $2,500, most likely the client will spend $2,900, right? $2,800 if you're closing them. And so that's one of the things we start with is, okay, when we get to the profitability, we make sure you're hitting the profit you want. And so that's one of the KPIs is, and again, it's kind of hard to describe because I'm not a big fan of like, oh, just get your square foot up to 625, because that doesn't quite work on every project. Because the other thing is, when you get to bigger projects, sometimes it's worth it to discount a little bit more to get the deal, just because it's a bigger project. And so we help you set a pretty average for, so, you have your average 2-car, your average 3-car. Here's probably where you want to hit. Anything smaller, anything bigger, here's the daily amount you want to be hitting. And so that's one of the other KPIs is making sure they're hitting the profit we want to do. So we have booking ratio, close ratio, and then typically it's from a revenue standpoint on what dollar amount they're closing the job at that we're watching and recording. In the industry, we see a lot of companies typically booking closer to maybe 55, 60% off Facebook and Google leads. And in my opinion, a lot of companies think they have a higher close ratio than they do. We discover that quite frequently when we dive into the numbers. A lot of times companies think they're sitting at 35, 40%, but then when you dive in, it's really 20%. And so in my opinion, the average close ratio we've seen for coatings is typically they're in the 20 to 25% ratio. So we like to see an increase into the 30s. That's one of the other, we're going to get you into a 30% close. And then from the profit standpoint, again, that's kind of on a per company basis. It just depends on what your overhead is. We work with you on that point to get you to your target profit. So the big thing too, so we want to improve the booking ratio. We want to have you booking between 70 to 75% of your Facebook and Google leads.
Beautiful.
We want to have you closing at least 30%. And then profitability, it just depends what your company goal is for profitability. And then we stream to hit that or excel it.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, that's pure value right there for anyone watching. Make sure that you follow on Instagram, Turnkey Coatings, also Hunter Davidson on Instagram. You can connect with him. I'm sure you give him a free consultation to walk through their initial business setup, etc. But the current Turnkey Coatings is a complete solution. You're going to come in, help them dial in their CRM, automations, follow-ups, customization, and then what you just talked about, the KPIs aspect, which is how do you optimize appointment setting, how do you optimize closing ratio, how do you optimize profitability. So it's turnkey. I mean, that couldn't be a better name there. Good job on that one.
Yeah, that and like I said, the other thing is, so once we're done with that, we don't just dump you, right? We implement all that month 1, and then month 2 to 3, we're in the trenches with you every week to make sure you're hitting those, we're hitting those increases in the KPIs. We're getting you to where your company's profitable. And companies that implement this, I mean, you're talking, they see an ROI in typically the first or second month. It's a very quick turnaround. Because I always, the big thing I always ask companies is what does a 5% increase in your close ratio look like? And what does 5% to 10% more in revenue look like for you? And you blend those two numbers together, and it's just that small increases on both sides. Your company's in a much healthier position. So
beautiful. Beautiful. So you've heard it from the man himself, Hunter Davidson here, how to grow profitably versus how just to grow the top line. I mean, these completely different worlds, completely different conversations. Some people make a lot of money, pretty quick, and they don't realize they actually didn't make any profits, or they're upside down.
do what we did, and it's funny because there's in business, there's a lot of pride, I think, that we got to put away. Because I remember, like you said, we were 22 and we're like, oh my gosh, we just 550,000 our year 1. But then I was like, our bank accounts don't reflect that at all. Like, I remember, me and him would talk. I'm like, we made no money. Like, because, oh, it's cool. We did $500,000 in sales. Everyone's like, wow. Then you're like, yeah, but like, I have $1,000 in my bank account right now, And I think there's a lot of, in the trade industry, there's a lot of that. And the way to solve that, there's 2 ways to solve it, right? It's the sales side and then the operations side. So the sales side is higher revenue, better close ratio. Operations side is more efficiency. We're a sales consulting. But so companies can get there. There's a lot of money in these trades. You just, you got to make sure you're hitting those KPIs and doing the things you need to do.
Excellent. So you have a 3-month program, and you're on a mission to help out the concrete coatings industry. Anyone listening in here, again, the call to action is, if you are generating leads, you're getting leads from social media, and you need help in turning more of those leads into estimates, you have a turnkey solution, someone that can come in and help you out in your team as well. Something else that you mentioned, Hunter, is that you implemented an appointment setter into the mix, and it wasn't just you setting the appointments. I see so many coating companies, the owners are wanting to handle all the leads, and that's not a smart play. I mean, you make more money by putting someone in there, spending more into advertising, having a higher booking ratio than trying to do it all yourself. But you need the training, you need the scripts, you need the processes to do that. How fast is the implementation with the CRM and the automation?
So month 1, we call it the building month. So typically it takes 1 month as we get all the sales material made. So we get the CRM automations built out specifically for your company, kind of get all that back end built out. And so typically it's about 1 month.
Excellent. 1 month. And then from there is the sales coaching, sales and optimization internally.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. You're good. You're good. We still got a couple of people. If anyone has any questions, we have a couple of viewers here. Type them into the chat. But talk to us a little bit about winter months. We're into it right in the middle of it, man. This is the Super Bowl of e-commerce. It seems like consumers are out there spending more money into what they're going to get for Christmas, etc. What's your one tip for any coating company owners out there when it comes to the winter season, slower season in a lot of areas throughout the country? What's your tip for them to stay busier and get more jobs during this time?
So number 1 is don't bite the hand that feeds you. That's just a big thing. Don't be afraid to keep spending money. I mean, you need to understand your business's finances, but even if your cost per lead does go up, let's say your cost per lead's going up $20, $50 a lead. As long as your business can support it, it's better staying busy to keep your overhead paid than not. And so that's number 1. Number 2, during the winter months, is it's all in the pitch, and we have this with turnkey, but you got to just kind of set it up. You know, I get the objection all the time during the winter. Oh, I think this is something we want to wait till spring. And so usually the two objections to that is, one, in Utah, they don't want to move their stuff on the driveway because of the cold. So we have a couple enclosed trailers. We can do U-Hauls where we offer moving and storage services. That's probably the big one for winter, to be honest, is being able to store their stuff. And the thing people should realize, I mean, I call that's a good profitability center. You could charge $600-700 for moving and storing their stuff and get that little extra profitability boost in that. So that's one thing. The number two is you always have to create a sense of urgency. If your client thinks the price is going to be the same price now as it is in the spring, then there's no urgency. We really try to push that, you know, in the winter is our best deals. And typically we do offer our best deals in the winter because we want to stay busy. And we make sure they understand that, you know, we let them know, hey, December is typically a slower month. If you're wanting to save a couple $100, this is the month to do it. You know, we typically are going to be at $650 a square foot, but if I can get you booked for the 14th, we can actually take $1 a square foot off and save you $600. And you know, then you extend the close. And so you go in with a few of those things to make sure you can overcome their objections. But that's typically the way that we do it. Beautiful.
Awesome. I love it. Anything else you want to share with us here and the listeners here before we wrap it up, Hunter?
I don't think so. The big thing is, like I said, so we do, typically it's about a 30-minute consultation with you. Totally free. And we just do a deep dive into your business, see where your bottlenecks are on the sales side. And typically in that 30 minutes, we can give you a really good idea of the increase in revenue and profit that you can expect from Turnkey. So if any of you are just curious, let me know. We'd be happy to set up a Zoom and we can see where we can, you know, what increases we can get you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much again for your time, Hunter. You can follow him on Instagram, Hunter Davidson, and at Turnkey Coatings on Instagram as well. Look him up, connect with him, reach out to him, mention that you listen to the podcast, and he's going to set you up with a 30-minute consultation. Look over your profitability and areas of optimization in your business. You need help with sales, reach out to him. You need help with your marketing, reach out to Concrete Marketing Crew. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one.
Hey there, Concrete Contractor. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. And also, if you're interested in taking your flat work and decorative concrete business to the next level online, make sure that you visit concretemarketingcrew.com today and learn more about our services. And go ahead and download our free internet marketing checklist for decorative concrete contractors. You'll learn a thing or two about what you can improve for your business online.